Welcome to English Lane. Today, we are going to explore the complete life story of one of the most inspiring entrepreneurs in the modern world, Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba Group. Jack Ma's journey is not only about business, it is about persistence, failure, rejection, resilience, and the power of believing in one's dreams. From being born in a poor family in Hangzhou, China, to becoming one of the richest men in the world, Jack Ma's life is filled with lessons for all of us. In this video, we will take you through every detail of his story, his childhood, his education, his failures, the founding of Alibaba, the creation of Taobao, Alipay, and Ant Group, his global success, his philosophy, his philanthropy, and his legacy. This is not just a story of money and business. It is a story of vision, determination, and hope. So sit back, relax, and let's begin this journey into the extraordinary life of Jack Ma. Early life and family background. Jack Ma was born on September 10, 1964, in Hangzhou, Zhejiang Province, China. His birth name was Ma Yun. At that time, China was going through political and economic turmoil. The country was still closed off to much of the outside world. Jack Ma's family was not wealthy. In fact, they were considered poor. His parents were traditional Chinese musicians and storytellers. They earned very little money by performing folk arts. This meant that Jack grew up in a household where resources were limited and opportunities were scarce. From a young age, Jack Ma experienced hardship. He was small in size, physically weak, and often bullied by other children. But these challenges made him tough. Instead of breaking him, these difficulties gave him the strength to fight for his future. Jack Ma was also very curious as a child. He loved to ask questions, explore, and learn about things that were beyond his surroundings. This curiosity would later become the foundation of his success. Hangzhou, the city where Jack grew up, was also important in shaping his life. Hangzhou was a historical and cultural city. But in the 1970s, it was still a small, developing place compared to Beijing or Shanghai. Jack did not have access to modern facilities or world-class education at that time. However, something remarkable happened in Hangzhou during Jack's childhood. The city opened up to foreign visitors. When the government decided to make Hangzhou a tourist city, foreigners started visiting the area. For Jack, this was the beginning of a life-changing opportunity. Childhood struggles and education. Jack Ma's childhood was full of struggles. He was born into a poor family, and his parents had very little income. This meant that Jack often went without the comforts that many children enjoyed. One of the biggest challenges Jack faced was his appearance and physical strength. He was very thin, short, and weak compared to other children. He was often bullied and made fun of by his classmates. But instead of letting this break his spirit, Jack used it as motivation to grow stronger mentally. In school, Jack Ma was not a brilliant student. In fact, he struggled with academics, especially in mathematics. He failed his primary school exams twice. Later, he also failed his middle school exams 3 times. Even during his university entrance exams, he failed 2 times before finally succeeding on his 3rd attempt. These failures could have made him give up, but Jack had something special: determination. He believed that failure was not the end, but rather a step towards success. This mindset became one of the most important qualities of his entire life. English, however, was a subject that fascinated him. Unlike math or science, which were very difficult for him, he loved learning English. But in the 1970s and 1980s, English was not widely taught in China. Resources were scarce, and most Chinese children did not have access to native speakers. But Jack Ma was different. He looked for opportunities everywhere. He would ride his bicycle for 40 minutes every morning to the Hangzhou Hotel where foreign tourists stayed. There, he offered to guide tourists around the city, not for money, but to practice speaking English. This was a turning point in his life. Through conversations with foreigners, he not only improved his English, but also learned about the outside world. He was introduced to new ideas, cultures, and possibilities that many of his peers in China had never even imagined. One of the tourists Jack befriended gave him the nickname Jack. His real name was Ma Yun, but the foreign visitor found it difficult to pronounce, so he simply called him Jack, a name that stuck with him for life. By the time Jack was a teenager, he could speak English fluently compared to most Chinese students of his age. This skill opened doors for him and shaped his global vision. Jack finally managed to pass the college entrance exam on his third attempt. He enrolled in Hangzhou Teachers Institute, later known as Hangzhou Normal University, in 1984. He chose to study English. In 1988, Jack Ma graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in English. This education gave him a career as an English teacher, but more importantly, it gave him a way to connect with the world. Learning English and influence of tourists. Jack Ma often said that learning English completely changed his life. In Hangzhou, during the 1980s, he spent countless hours talking with foreigners, showing them around and asking questions. Through this experience, he not only learned the language, but also gained a broader perspective. Most Chinese people at that time had very little exposure to Western culture. But Jack Ma, through his interactions, came to understand different lifestyles, business ideas, and cultural habits. He realized that the world was much bigger than China, and this gave him ambition. Jack often shared stories of how these tourists told him about America, Europe, and technology. These conversations shaped his imagination. He began to dream bigger than his classmates. While others thought only of finding stable jobs, Jack was already imagining how China could connect to the world. His fluency in English also gave him confidence. He became a tour guide for many years as a teenager, and later his English degree helped him secure a teaching position. One lesson Jack always repeated in interviews was, "Learning English taught me how to think differently. It gave me a chance to see the world with my own eyes, not just through Chinese books." This ability to see beyond boundaries became a cornerstone of his entrepreneurial journey. Failures in exams, jobs, and early career. Failure was a constant part of Jack Ma's life. He failed his exams multiple times before getting into college. But even after graduating, life was not easy. When Jack applied for jobs, he was rejected again and again. He applied for 30 different jobs and was rejected from all of them. One of the most famous examples he shared was his application to KFC. When KFC first came to Hangzhou, 24 people applied for jobs. Out of the 24, 23 were accepted. Jack Ma was the only one rejected. He also applied to become a police officer. Out of 5 applicants, 4 were accepted. Jack was the only one rejected again. Even Harvard University rejected him 10 times when he applied for admission. All of these failures could have crushed his confidence, but Jack Ma believed in perseverance. He often said, "If you don't give up, you still have a chance. Giving up is the greatest failure." Before starting his own business, Jack worked as an English teacher at Hangzhou Dianzi University. He earned a monthly salary of just $12. Despite the low pay, he enjoyed teaching because it allowed him to share knowledge and practice communication. At the same time, he also started working as a translator. His ability to speak English opened opportunities for him to work with foreigners, and eventually, this skill would lead him to discover the internet, a discovery that would change his destiny forever. Becoming an English teacher. After graduating in 1988 with a degree in English, Jack Ma began his professional career as an English teacher at Hangzhou Dianzi University. At that time, being an English teacher was considered a respected but modest profession. Jack Ma was passionate about teaching. He loved standing in front of students, explaining lessons, and most importantly, motivating them. He always used humor, energy, and stories to inspire his students. Even though his monthly salary was only around $12, he enjoyed the work. Teaching gave Jack Ma an important skill that would help him later as a businessman: the ability to communicate effectively with people. He learned how to deliver speeches, how to hold attention, and how to inspire others. These skills became his trademark as a leader. However, deep inside, Jack Ma was restless. He enjoyed teaching, but he wanted to do something bigger. He wanted to make an impact on the world. The dream of connecting China to the outside world was still alive in his heart. First exposure to the internet. In 1995, Jack Ma traveled to the United States as a translator for a Chinese trade delegation. During this trip, he was introduced to something completely new: the internet. A friend in Seattle showed him how to search for information online. Jack typed the word beer into the search engine. The results showed American beer, German beer, but no Chinese beer. Curious, he searched for China, but again, there was almost no information available. This shocked him. He realized that China had no presence on the internet at that time. For Jack Ma, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He thought to himself, if China is not on the internet, someone has to bring it there. Why not me? This moment was the turning point in his life. Jack Ma immediately decided that the internet would be the future, and China needed to be part of it. China Pages, first startup attempt. Inspired by the internet, Jack Ma returned to China and started his very first online business idea: China Pages. The purpose of China Pages was to create websites for Chinese companies so that they could display their information online for international customers. It was one of the first internet companies in China. At that time, very few people in China even knew what the internet was. Jack and his small team went door to door trying to convince businesses to make websites. They showed them how important it would be for the future. However, the project faced many difficulties. The technology was new, internet access was limited, and the government had strict control. Jack Ma lacked financial resources, and although China Pages gained some attention, it was eventually taken over by a state-owned company. Even though China Pages failed, Jack Ma learned valuable lessons. 1. The internet was the future. 2. He needed the right team and resources to succeed. 3. Failure was part of the journey. Jack Ma would later say, "China Pages did not succeed, but it planted a seed in my mind. I knew I had found my direction." Founding Alibaba, 1999. In 1999, Jack Ma gathered 17 of his friends and colleagues in his apartment in Hangzhou. He explained his vision: to create a global online marketplace that would connect Chinese manufacturers with international buyers. The company was named Alibaba. Jack chose the name because it was simple, easy to spell, and recognized around the world due to the famous story Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. He believed the name represented open sesame, opening the door to opportunities. With very little money, Jack and his team started building the platform. The idea was to help small and medium-sized businesses in China sell their products globally through the internet. At first, many people laughed at Jack. They thought his idea was crazy. Internet penetration in China was still low, and few believed e-commerce could work. But Jack Ma had an unshakable belief in his vision. Alibaba faced many early struggles. They had no revenue model in the beginning. Jack motivated his team with speeches and by reminding them that success takes time. He told them, "Today is hard. Tomorrow will be worse. But the day after tomorrow will be sunshine." This belief kept the team united.
Early struggles and survival of Alibaba. In the first few years, Alibaba almost collapsed several times. They did not make money, and the company was losing resources quickly. Jack Ma refused to give up. He went from office to office, trying to convince investors to fund Alibaba. He was rejected by venture capitalists many times, but he kept trying. Finally, in 1999, Goldman Sachs and in 2000, SoftBank invested in Alibaba. The investment from SoftBank's Masayoshi Son was especially crucial. Masayoshi Son believed in Jack's passion and vision even when Alibaba had no profits. With these funds, Alibaba was able to survive and grow. The company started attracting more Chinese businesses to join the platform. Slowly, Alibaba began to build momentum. Jack Ma's leadership was unique. He motivated his employees with passion, music, and vision. He believed in creating a culture where employees worked not just for money, but for a mission. He once said, "We will make it because we are young and we never, never give up."
Growth of Alibaba and investment from Yahoo. By the early 2000s, Alibaba was growing but still struggling to establish itself in the competitive online marketplace. Many international players, like eBay, were entering China and trying to dominate the e-commerce space. In 2005, a major turning point came when Yahoo invested $1 billion in Alibaba in exchange for a 40% stake in the company. This partnership gave Alibaba not only financial strength, but also global recognition. Jack Ma used this opportunity to expand Alibaba's services. He focused on small and medium-sized businesses, helping them find international buyers. Unlike eBay, which was more focused on auctions, Alibaba provided a platform for suppliers and wholesalers. This unique approach helped Alibaba grow rapidly. By focusing on trust, reliability, and long-term relationships, Jack Ma built confidence among users. Alibaba became the leading B2B, or business-to-business marketplace in China. Jack Ma's philosophy was clear: help small businesses. If small businesses succeed, we will succeed. Creation of Taobao and Tmall. In 2003, Jack Ma launched Taobao, an online shopping website designed for consumers. This was Alibaba's entry into the C2C market, directly competing with eBay in China. At that time, eBay was very strong and well-funded, but Jack Ma understood the Chinese market better. Instead of charging high fees, Taobao allowed sellers to join for free. It also offered features that were more user-friendly for Chinese consumers. One of the biggest innovations was Ali Wang, an instant messaging tool that allowed buyers and sellers to communicate directly. This created trust and built stronger relationships. Within just a few years, Taobao became more popular than eBay in China. By 2006, eBay had practically lost the Chinese market to Taobao. Later, Jack Ma also launched Tmall, a platform designed for bigger brands and official stores. Tmall allowed companies to create their own online shops, selling directly to customers. This expanded Alibaba's reach and created a powerful e-commerce ecosystem.
Development of Alipay and digital payments. One of the biggest challenges in e-commerce was payment security. In the early 2000s, Chinese consumers did not trust online transactions. Many were afraid of being cheated. To solve this, Jack Ma launched Alipay in 2004. Alipay introduced an escrow system, meaning when a customer bought something, the money was held by Alipay. Only after the customer confirmed receiving the product, the seller would get the money. This system built trust between buyers and sellers. People began to feel safe shopping online. Over time, Alipay expanded beyond Alibaba's platforms. It became a leading digital payment system in China, similar to PayPal, but even bigger. Today, Alipay has hundreds of millions of users and is part of the Ant Group. Jack Ma's vision was clear. If you want to grow e-commerce, you must solve the problem of payment.
The rise of Singles' Day Shopping Festival. In 2009, Alibaba introduced Singles' Day, November 11, also called 11/11, as a shopping festival. Originally, Singles' Day was a fun holiday celebrated by young people in China. Jack Ma and his team turned it into the biggest online shopping event in the world. They offered huge discounts, special deals, and entertainment. The results were incredible. Every year, Singles' Day broke new records. Billions of dollars were spent in just 24 hours. For example, in 2017, Alibaba reported over $25 billion in sales on Singles' Day alone. It became even bigger than Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined. This event showed Jack Ma's genius in creating not only a marketplace, but also a shopping culture. Singles' Day became a symbol of China's e-commerce power. Alibaba IPO in New York, 2014. On September 19, 2014, Alibaba went public on the New York Stock Exchange, NYSE. The initial public offering, IPO, raised $25 billion, making it the largest IPO in history at that time. This was a defining moment for Jack Ma and his company. The world now recognized Alibaba as a global giant. The IPO made Jack Ma the richest man in China, with a fortune worth more than $20 billion. During the IPO, Jack Ma gave an inspiring speech. "We hope to make small businesses bigger. This is not about money. This is about dreams." The success of the IPO showed how far Jack had come, from being rejected by KFC to building one of the most powerful companies in the world. Ant Group and the FinTech Revolution. After the success of Alipay, Jack Ma pushed further into financial technology. Ant Financial, later known as Ant Group, became the crown jewel of Alibaba's ecosystem. It started as a simple payment platform, but evolved into a massive fintech empire, providing loans, insurance, credit scoring, and wealth management. By 2020, Ant Group was preparing for what would have been the world's largest IPO, valued at over $34 billion. The financial world was watching closely. However, just before the IPO, Chinese regulators halted the listing. This was a turning point in Jack Ma's career,
highlighting the growing tension between big tech and government regulation in China. Confrontation with regulators. Jack Ma was known for speaking boldly, sometimes too boldly. In October 2020, he gave a speech criticizing China's financial regulatory system, calling it outdated and unsuitable for innovation. His remarks angered authorities. Soon after, Ant Group's IPO was suspended, and new regulations were imposed on fintech companies. Jack himself disappeared from public life for several months, causing global speculation. Some thought he had been silenced permanently, while others believed he was forced to step back. This period showed that no matter how powerful or rich, entrepreneurs in China had to operate within the limits of government control.
Jack Ma's leadership philosophy. Throughout his journey, Jack Ma developed a leadership style that was unique. He believed in teamwork, optimism, and resilience. He once said, "If you want to be successful, learn from the mistakes of others, not from success stories." Today is difficult. Tomorrow is more difficult, but the day after tomorrow is beautiful. Jack's philosophy centered around empowering young people and small businesses. He often reminded his employees that Alibaba's mission was not just about making money, but about making it easier to do business anywhere in the world. His speeches inspired millions of entrepreneurs globally. Philanthropy and global influence. As Jack Ma grew wealthier, he devoted more time to philanthropy. Through the Jack Ma Foundation, he focused on rural education, entrepreneurship, women's leadership, and healthcare. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Jack donated medical supplies to more than 150 countries, showing his influence beyond business. His efforts made him a respected global figure, not just a Chinese billionaire. Jack Ma also appeared in international forums, like the World Economic Forum in Davos, where he spoke about globalization, trade, and the future of technology. His voice carried weight on the global stage. Retirement and legacy. In 2019, Jack Ma officially retired as chairman of Alibaba on his 55th birthday. The event was celebrated in a grand stadium in Hangzhou with thousands of employees. Jack said he wanted to return to teaching, his first love, and to focus on philanthropy. His legacy is not only Alibaba or Ant Group, but also the inspiration he provided to dreamers worldwide. From a rejected job applicant at KFC to one of the richest men in the world, Jack Ma's story is proof that persistence and vision can change lives. Today, even though he has stepped away from daily operations, his influence continues. He remains a symbol of resilience, entrepreneurship, and global impact. This was the complete biography of Jack Ma, from his humble childhood to becoming a global icon. We hope you found inspiration in his story. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to English Lane for more detailed biographies and English learning content.